All right, good afternoon, traders. Today is July 17th, 2025. My name is John Carignan. I am the lead instructor here at the BYOB Trading Room. This is the day trading service for the hit and run candlesticks family. All right, had a good day today. As you can see, made 110K on a 300K account. Let's go take a look at some charts. Let's take a look at the 5K account, see what we're doing with that. Okay, the 5K account currently sitting at, we started this on the 7th of July, okay? Currently sitting on 8,877. All right, so let's take a look at what we traded on the 5K account, okay? By the way, on the 27K account, yeah, we 10x that and then some, all right, on that 27K account, all right. So here we are with the 5K account. Let's slide this over and take a look at what we got, all right. Let's take a look at what we traded today. All right, and we are on, let's go to the 5K. Here's the 5K. So we traded some 628 0 DTE calls. All right, let's take a peek at those. All right, so we bought the dip. Okay, we had a 10-minute. Okay, let's just look at this 10-minute uptrend. Okay, and a trend day. All right, almost all day. All right, so we bought the dips of the candles and sold the peaks. Right there, bought the dips, sold the peaks. That's it. All right, you got a 10-minute uptrend. All I got to do is look at the trend and say, okay, I'm going to continue buying dips and selling peaks. That's all I got to do. Every time this option candle makes a dip, all right, I'm going to try to buy the bottom of it. All right, on all those peaks, I'm going to try to sell the tops of all those peaks. All right, now you can see I was probably busy with another account in that little area right there. But anyways, 10-minute uptrend. We traded that right there. The other thing we traded was Amazon. All right, so we traded, we bought the low on Amazon and sold the 3-cent mark right there to get out of break even. Made $44 on Amazon. That's it. So that's the 5K account. Let's go to the 27K account. See what we traded with that, and it's going to fire up. On the 27K account, we lost $440 on Amazon right here, okay? We're way underwater with Amazon, so we lost $440 on Amazon. Maybe tomorrow. We got one more day left on this expiration. Let's take a look at the SPY. Okay, so on the SPY, what did we come up with? We have 628 0 DTE calls, made 73K on those. Again, okay, it's the same thing I do almost every day, all right? That 10-minute uptrend, that's my favorite, I'm telling you. What do I like? I like a 10-minute uptrend over VWAP. Okay, I like it when it's cutting away from VWAP. See, notice the candles are no longer attached, all right? And they're cutting away, and they're no longer attached to VWAP. I like that 10-minute uptrend that's cutting away from VWAP, and it's above VWAP, all right? And it's inside that 2-hour uptrend, that's inside that daily uptrend, that's inside that weekly uptrend, that's inside the monthly uptrend, all right? All over the all-time high anchored VWAP or the prior all-time high anchored VWAP, okay, right there. Okay, that's my favorite trade. Okay, I got the wind in my sails. I got the wind in my sails from multiple different directions. From the 2-hour time frame, I have a 2-hour uptrend, so I got that wind in my sails. On the hourly chart, let's say I got an hourly uptrend. Let's look at it anyway just to make sure. Okay, you got an hourly uptrend, so I got that wind in my sails. Okay, and then from another perspective, I've got the daily chart's in an uptrend, so I've got the daily wind in my sails. And then you look at the weekly, I've got the weekly wind in my sails. And then I've got the monthly chart And look at the candles up there. I've got the monthly wind in my sails right there. Okay, that's what I like to trade. 10-minute uptrend over VWAP in those conditions right there, with the hourly uptrend, the 2-hour uptrend, the daily uptrend, the weekly, the monthly, all over the all-time high anchored VWAP. Okay, I have the courage and the belief that these trades will go further on days like this, where I have all of those different time frames. I've got their energy working with me, pushing price up higher and higher and higher, moving my hands like the one of those people that talk with their hands most of the time. All right, if you're not watching them, you're missing half the conversation. Anyways, all right. So there's the that's not what I wanted. I wanted the 10-minute. Okay, so there's the 10-minute uptrend. Notice the 3. It's on top of the 8. All right, and the 8 and the price candles and the 3 are on top of the 17. See the green dots? That's the 17 EMA. Okay, what were we looking for this morning? Hey, we had a 10-minute uptrend coming into the close the prior day. And what did I say? I said the prior day, and I said this morning, I said I'll be looking for continuation of that 10-minute uptrend. Okay, guess what? We got it right here. So we had 10-minute continuation of that 10-minute uptrend. So we traded that. Notice cutting away from VWAP. We love it when it does that. Okay, that's where we can make some money. All right, so there's that 10-minute uptrend cutting away from VWAP. Love that. Okay, let's take a look at the 2-hour trend. Okay, you can see on the 2-hour, obviously we have a 2-hour uptrend. We like that. Okay. On the daily chart, okay, you can see daily chart got a daily uptrend. Okay, all right, made 26K on this one right here, and these were the 1 DTE 635 calls. Okay, again, 10-minute. Let's go to the 10-minute chart. Okay, just buying the dips and selling the highs of the candle. That's it. Okay, on the 1 DTE 635 calls. 9K on the 1 DTE 630 calls. Again, I'm looking at my 10-minute uptrend. If my 10-minute uptrend is still intact, okay, I will continue buying the lows of the candles and selling the highs. And that's exactly what we did. Okay? Puts, all right? I had sold these puts, all right, to create a bull put spread because I had some puts that were underwater. So I sold these. So all I did was buy to cover so that I could exit my other puts. All right. So you can see here are the other puts, 1 DTE 617 puts. And you can see I took a bath on those, but I made a gain on these right here, making 5,800 and losing 6K on those puts right there. All right, made 1,800 on these calls. 8 days till expiration. 640 calls. Again, buying the dip, selling the peak. Buying the dip, selling the peak. All right, 14 days till expiration. 640 calls. All right, made $600 on those. Again, buying the dip, all right, and selling the peaks. That's it. That's all I did. Nothing special, all right, as long as just selling the peaks up here and buying the dips. Those are 14 days. And then I lost, here's that 6K on those puts that were underwater. I told you I was going to lose some, so I created a spread to recover most of the 6K that I lost, managing to recapture about 5,800 from the puts that were underwater right there. So that's it. That's what I traded today. What do I have left over? Okay, this is my current inventory for tomorrow. Okay, you can see I've got 5,600 of these 635 calls. All right, I've got 10 puts. I've got 3 Amazon calls, which probably will not make any money at all. All right, I've got 146 630 calls. Of course, 630 is right around the corner because we're at like 628 right now. All right, so I feel like we have a really good shot of hitting 630. Okay, on those. Those are 630 and they expire tomorrow at 4:15. So I got 146 of those. I've got 40 of these 640 calls. All right, those are 8 days till expiration. All right, and then I've got 50 of the 640, 14 days till expiration. And then I've got 30 of the Intel calls, 25 strike, 64 days till expiration on those. All right, so that's how I made my 110K today. Again, I'm watching the 10-minute uptrend, and you guys know, without a doubt, I know every one of you knows, the 10-minute uptrend is my favorite chart right there. Okay, now I do keep an eye on the 5, and I do keep an eye on the 3, but you know the 10 is my favorite, and especially when it cuts away from VWAP like that. See how it's somebody put a knife in there and separated the meat from the fat right there. Okay, so that's what we like. That's what we like. All right, I'm going to push this over to the side. Now we're going to do something just a little bit different. Okay, we're going to go see some of my bulls and bears off the list. Now I create this every morning. And this is yesterday's. And I star these, all right, so that you know that they're building a launch pad. That's what I'm going to call it. They're building a launch pad. And they're have not launched yet, or they are beginning to launch. Okay, so I star them for the traders in the room so that they can find them. Everything else in here is in an uptrend. Everything over here is in a downtrend. But these are the stars right there. Those are the launch pads. So take a mental picture: FIVE, TNGX, the movie channel, and EYE. All right, we'll take a look at those. All right, and we'll look at those real quick on the daily chart. All right, so let's scoot over to a daily chart, and let's slide this over. Let's just open it up just a little bit if I can. That's not going to let me. Let's try this. All right, let's open that up just a little bit. Try this one right here. Okay, so let's start with the movie channel. It's not really the movie channel. It's the metals company, but because it's TMC, I call it the movie channel. Anyways, okay, you can see here is the launch pad being constructed right there, and you can see price breaking out. Anytime I see price do bearish engulfing, I count that as a double wick right up there. Here's price breaking out over the base. Anytime you got two valleys, you got a valley here and a valley here, price is breaking out right there, and you can see price went up there and made a higher high. That's a higher rally high. Okay, look at that chart. Okay, it hasn't seen those highs in years. Okay, 3 years since it's seen these highs right here. Okay, 3 years, and probably multiple different splits. Okay, so there it is. The launch pad building for launch out of there. All right, the next one is FIVE. All right, you can see launch pad getting constructed here on FIVE. All right, and let's just take it from here. And you can see here's our launch pad, and you got ignition, Houston, we have liftoff right there. Okay, built the launch pad, and then we have, look at that, another high. Okay, how high? That's pretty high. Okay, we haven't seen those in a year. Okay, so that's a new 12-month high. Where are they going to go? See this valley between two peaks? Most definitely going for that valley between the two peaks. They're probably going to touch base with that. They may even go past it and touch base with the one next to it. We'll see. So there's FIVE. Let's take a look at EYE. All right, here's EYE on the daily chart. Again, we've got a launch pad being constructed right here. Okay, so we kind of peaked up right here, and then we kind of pulling back. So I think this one may come off the list as a failed breakout. We'll see what happens, but you can see they still have that launch pad built up there. The last one was TNGX. Okay, TNGX here. Here's the launch pad right here. Okay, you can see it. See that consolidation over consolidation right here. Okay, see that over this consolidation underneath here. See the launch pad that's being constructed. And then you have Houston, we have liftoff right there. Right there today. Nice, like that. Okay, so that's what it means when you see these on social media. All right, these stars. This is what I have starred because they're building a launch pad that are about to launch right there. Okay, you can see UUU, another big winner. No launch pad, just a big winner. That's all. Look at that. Okay, that's been on my chart for about 5 days or more. All right, right there. You want me to look at BKSY? All right, BKSY. I don't think I have that on my chart, but they had a bad day today. I'm going to tell you right now, and I don't know if that's earnings. No, it's not earnings related. All right, so they had they made a new high. Look at that. When's the last time they got up there? It's been 3 years since they've been up this high. 3 years. All right, Black Sky Technology or Blue Sky. Okay, so tough day today. All right, with a pullback. If they're below the 50 or above the 17, that's good. Notice they got below the 17 and they recovered it. Okay, if they get below the 50, it's usually lights out. All right, they're staying above the 17. There's still a chance they recover tomorrow. We'll see what happens. But if I was in profits, I'd probably at least clean up at least 60 to 70% of them on something like this for fear that I get a follow-through candle tomorrow. We'll see. Right now we're looking at a spinning top right now. So we're looking at, that means bears think it should be there and bulls think it should be here. All right, so this is bulls and bears with this spinning top that we got right now. All right, let me move this out of the way. All right, and one of the members shared something in the room. All right, just want to share this up here in the room here. We slide this over. Okay, up here in the room on files. Okay, Woody's Pivot, courtesy of Jim S. Make sure you tell him thank you. You got an Excel spreadsheet for Woody's Pivots. All right, I have not opened it, but it's there. I don't know if it creates Woody's Pivots on your TOS platform each time, but he created it right there, and that's in there for you. All right, so that's nice having those pivots. They make good targets. All right, for the downside and the upside. Okay, so to find that, you go from screens, you shoot all the way across here to files, and you shoot down to files right here. Here's images. This is for files. So it's an Excel file. So you'll have to open it up, have an Excel program or something similar that will decipher what's being said there. Okay, so that's what we got. All right, and hey, while we're here, let's go to screens. Okay, if you don't know it, in the room here, I project, what the account's doing at the time. This one has got to come down a little bit more. All right, and over here are my trades, basically my profit and loss because as a trade closes over here, it's no longer in here anymore, so I got to keep track of it over here. So this right here is the positions. All right, it's broadcast at all times, most of the time. All right, and then this is the P&L right there. And then on screen 3, this is unexecuted orders, so unfilled orders, all over here on the right side of screen 3. And on the left side is everything that got executed. Okay, all of this is all the executed trades. These are the unexecuted trades. All right, it's also I can help you, show you how I trade, what I'm trading, and what I'm doing. Okay, because what I like to do is I like to put out a net of sell orders for price to run into, and I like to put on a net of buy orders for price to run into. Whenever I see those 10-minute uptrends, that's what I'm doing all the time. Okay, people think like, hey John, why do you trade so much? Because that's how I trade. I put out a net of orders, and you'll often see it, with my net of orders. If I go to 5-minute, you'll see on something like this. Okay, I put out a net of orders for price to run into, and I put out a net of buy orders so that I can recapture what I sold, so I can do it again. All right, so that's what I do over and over all day long in those 10-minute uptrends. Okay, I watch the trend to make sure it's still in a 10-minute uptrend. All right, that's the 3 on top of the 8. All right, on top of the 17. All right, cutting away from VWAP. All right, it's got to be over VWAP. If you're not over VWAP, it's really not that interesting unless you've gone into some exhaustion candle to the downside. Then I can see price absolutely pulling back to VWAP. All right, so there's SPY on the 10-minute chart. Okay. Yes, on screen 2, on the right side, yes, is my existing condition, existing positions, and the left side is just my P&L on the far column. All right, I have to keep that over there because if I sell out a position complete, it won't be listed under the positions tab. Right. Okay. So, hey, I just want to say a lot of the traders had some good days this week, all right? And I want to congratulate all of them. I mean, we had some guys making 5 daily goals, 6 daily goals. Lots of winning going on today here in the BYOB Trading Room. And by the way, if you ever become a member of BYOB, all right, in the near future, don't wait, all right? I do free coaching, all right? I do. I give you a free 15-minute coaching because, I mean, I can do this all day long, but it's most important that you're able to do it, okay? And because of that, I want to see you do it, and I want to see you make some money. I want to see my strategies work for you, and for that, I do free 15-minute coaching. All you got to do is contact me on Teams, all right, and we set up a time frame, and most of the time I can record it, and you guys can review it, all right, at your leisure. All right, so just want to let you know that's out there for all the members, free 15-minute coaching. All right, we get together on Teams, we talk about whatever you want to talk about, all right, because I want to fix it. I want to make you a successful trader. That's how committed I am to making all of the traders in here a successful traders, all right? That's how committed. I will work with you till you get it, all right? That I didn't have that back in the day, okay? When I first started, believe me, nobody wanted to help me. Everything was like hush, hush, all right? Move along, kid, you haven't put in your time, that kind of a thing, okay? Not like that here, okay? Here, we want to help you succeed. It's not just me. Everybody in the room will be cheerleading for you when you do succeed. That's the kind of group we got here. It's one fabulous group. I love this group. All right, so again, they're all subscribers, and I don't take those subscriptions for granted. Try to provide actionable, profitable content with quality lessons and training so that you will succeed every single day. All right, let's take a look at, okay, we already did the SPY. Let's take a look at QQQ. All right, let's hit it on the daily chart. Okay, let's hit it with the quad lines. Okay, hey, QQQ, no new all-time high. All right, just dropped a mic. All right, it doesn't get any better than that. All right, new all-time high. Okay, and you know it's got to be in an uptrend unless it's just a one candle high. Okay, in order for it to make the all-time high. So you know it's bullish if it's making all-time high. All right, you know it's in an uptrend if it's making a new all-time high, and it's probably in quadrant 4, and it's darn sure over the prior all-time high if it just made a new all-time high. So it's bullish and in an uptrend. Let's take a look at SPY. Okay, and did SPY make a new all-time high? Oh yes, it did. Okay, so new all-time high for SPY. Again, just drop the mic, all right? It doesn't get any better than that. Diamond Dow. All right, Diamond Dow is nice candle, higher low, higher high, closing over a bullish trap. That's always bullish. Over the 17, all right? That's bullish. Over the all-time high, anchored VWAP. That's the pink line. That's bullish. Consolidating up here in quadrant 4. That's bullish. Hey, traders. All right, whenever you see price move up, let me get a thicker line here. Let's move this out of the way, okay? All right, whenever you see price move up and hold the higher ground, that's bullish. What's not bullish is when price goes up and gives it up. That's not bullish. That's just neutral, okay? It's not bearish. It's just neutral. You go up, you give it up. That's neutral. All right, but when you can get price to like move up and hold the higher ground, that's bullish. Okay, now you see Diamond Dow, what is it doing? Up, holding the higher ground up there. That's bullish. Okay, that's like, I don't know how many of you guys exercise out there, but and we all need to, because getting out of the trading chair gets harder and harder, seems like it. Yeah, you got to stay active. All right. Anyways, Diamond Dow up there. That's like planking for 6 hours. Okay. If you've ever done exercise, that's what it's like. Planking. It takes an incredible amount of strength and energy. Okay. So strength indicating that the bulls have the strength or the power or are strong. Okay. So the buyers have the strength. That's where it is, up there. So there's Diamond Dow up over prior all-time high anchored VWAP, or the all-time high anchored VWAP. If you want to know what anchored VWAP, it's like the average price that shares sold for. It's close to, it's not quite exact, but it's very close to the actual number that all the shares sold for, okay? It'd be the average, okay? So VWAP represents what price should be, okay? Anchored VWAP or regular VWAP, that represents what price should be. Now, if you see price cutting away from what it should be, that's telling you that institutions feel like price is worth more, okay, than what it should be. All right, that's the only reason. Okay, because they're moving it higher over it. Notice, see the separation, okay? That's bullish. When they think it should be selling for more or they think it's worth more, why would they buy it way up here when this is what it should be? Right? That doesn't make sense, right? So why would they pay more when they can just wait and get it for what it's supposed to be selling for, right? That would make more sense than to pay the higher price, unless it's going higher. Okay? Unless it has the possibility of going higher. And is it doing the right stuff? Yes, moving up. And it's holding the higher ground. Okay? That's bullish. All right? So there's Diamond Dow. We're in an uptrend, if you didn't know it. All right, it's making higher highs and higher lows. Okay, still in an uptrend, and we're bullish. We're up in quadrant 4 and consolidating, holding that plank up there. That's bullish. All right, let's take a look at IWM. All right, again, doing the right stuff, moving up, holding the higher ground. We're in the upper third. Okay, so for this, okay, anytime you're in the upper third of the quadrant lines, this would be the lower third. So down in the lower third, this is bearish down here. Okay, everything down here is bearish. Everything in the upper third up here, yeah, this is bullish, all up here, okay? They're in the upper third. That makes them bullish. If you're in quadrant 4, right around here, okay, right in here and here, quadrant 4, that's bullish too. But if you're in the upper third, you're also bullish, all right? So anything in the upper third, that's bullish. Okay, so for IWM, we got a couple of lows down here. And we got a couple of higher lows right here. All right, we got a couple of highs right here. And we got higher high up here. So that's bullish because it's making higher highs and higher lows. Okay, so that's bullish. IWM. In the upper third, that's bullish. Okay, over all-time high anchored VWAP. That's a pink line right there. So that's bullish and in an uptrend. And planking, so it's showing some strength up there. Okay, IWM. Let's take a look at FNGU. All right, let's take a look at FNGU. Okay, FNGU doing the same stuff, and it's doing the right stuff. Again, move up and over to the right. See that? I covered them all up, but you can see it clearly. Price moves up and holds the higher ground up there. Okay, that's bullish. All right, anytime you see price move up, hold the higher ground, that is bullish. That is a sign of strength, a show of force. All right, it's like having one of those F-16 fly over and show you what's under the belly. All right, right there, that's a plank. That's strength. All right, to hold that higher ground. All right, so there's FNGU. All right, up there in quadrant 4, that's bullish. Got a couple of lows. You can see we got a higher low, got a couple of highs. There's a higher high, okay? That is bullish up over this all-time high anchored VWAP. All right, let's take a look at our technicals. All right, T2122, we spent the day inside the buy zone. We made an appearance inside the buyer's chop zone, but all in all, for the most part, we spent the day in the buy zone drinking the bear's wine. Okay, there it is, T2122, camping out in the buy zone, making the bears uncomfortable. T2123, look at this. New rally high. Okay, we haven't seen this for a long time. New rally high on T2123, 15-minute chart. Okay, we were in a downtrend. Why? Because we got a low here and we made a lower low. Well, we got a high here, and guess what we just did? We took out that high and made a higher high. That's an uptrend. Look at this price. Green from the beginning of the day. Again, a continuation of that 10-minute uptrend. All right, green from the beginning of the day until the end of the day. Finishing the day near the high of the day. What a show of force. What a show of strength. Love that. All the way up over this 200 SMA. Great job on T2123. All right, that's bullish. And the 15-minute chart is in an uptrend. Okay? As opposed to this morning, it was not. All right? And here we are at the end of the day, bullish and in an uptrend. Let's take a look at the 3-bar chart. It's the same product. Okay, we've got some consolidation over here that needs to be dealt with. Okay, so you got a low, and we got a high, and then a low, and then another high. Okay, so you can see price action is kind of dealing with that area right now. Okay, because here we are. All right, you can see price is currently dealing with that right now. See all of this? Once they cut through this, all that's left is the all-time high. Once they deal with this consolidation. Okay, it's going to take more than just one 4-hour candle. It's going to take a couple of days to deal with this consolidation. This low, this high, this low. Eventually, when we get past it and cut past this, all we got to deal with is the all-time high. And I think they are ready and poised and ready to strike a new all-time high as soon as they cut through all of this consolidation over here. Okay? So there's the 3-bar chart. Again, let's take a look closer. Here's a low. There's a higher low. There's a high. Here's some higher highs. That's an uptrend. Okay? 3 more green candle bars, and now we've got some space reopening between the 17 EMA and the price action. Look at price move up and hold the higher ground. Okay? Here's a move up. Okay, move up and hold the higher ground. That's bullish. That's a sign of strength. That's a sign of force right there. Okay? Don't get in front of that. And we've got price. Look at the distance between 200 SMA and the price action. A lot of distance in this 3-bar chart. Okay? That's looking great. See how it grows? See how the distance gets longer and longer? See how it's growing right there? The price candles and the 200 SMA. Okay? It's a sign of force. This is going to go almost ballistic pretty soon here if they can get past that consolidation. All right. That's enough of that. Let's go take a look at a few sectors. First sector. All right. We're going to look at XLE on the daily chart. Okay, XLE. Okay, notice XLE. XLE, this is our energy sector. Okay, got a habit of going up and giving it up. Same thing on the downside, goes down and gives that up too. All right, so you go up, you give it up, that's neutral. You go down, you give it up, that's neutral. All right, you go up, you give it up, and more, that's bearish. So they were bearish when they were down here, but notice they went down here and they gave it up, so they're back to neutral. Okay, again, if you're in the lower third, you're bearish. Okay, if you're in the upper third, okay, up here, you're bullish. They're in between. Okay, see this right through here. Okay, that makes them neutral right there. Okay, so that's just neutral. Take a look at today's candle. Okay, you got a lower high and a lower low, closing underneath bearish, closing inside a bearish trap, and underneath the 17 EMA. Okay, so that's price action is, zoom in here. So you notice they're underneath the red dots and they're underneath the bearish trap. So that's, even though it's a nice green candle, it's bearish. All right, because you're under the 17 and you're under a bearish trap. Okay, you're also underneath this all-time high anchored VWAP right there. Okay, so that's knocking on the door. That is a bullish sign. But look at what price continues to do. Go up and give it up. Okay, go up and give it up. Okay, not a healthy sign for the bulls. If you keep giving it up every time you go up the hill, the billy goat knocks you off. Okay, that's not a good sign that you have things under control. Obviously not. All right, so here we are. Price just neutral. Okay, closing over downtrend line 1, but under downtrend line 2, right here at the midpoint, just neutral. Okay, you're still in an uptrend. Okay, because you got some lows right here. Notice you made some higher lows. You got a couple of highs. Okay, you got a high here, a high there, and you made a high there. And you even beat this by a penny, so you made a higher high. So you're making higher lows and higher highs. That is an uptrend. You just haven't got the fortitude, okay, it's a nice way to put it, to hold the higher ground, okay? You need to do more training, obviously, in order to hold that plank. All right, so price action underneath this all-time high anchored VWAP, still neutral, but in an uptrend, not quite ready yet. Okay, so there's XLE. All right, let's take a look at USO. Okay, this is petroleum crude oil. All right, now if you're in the upper third, okay, you're bullish. All right, not quite in the upper third there. Okay, it's getting close. There were times it was in the upper third. Okay, over here. All right, see when it was like right there. Notice it was closing up over there. That was bullish. Still neutral down here. Nice candle, higher low, higher high, closing over a bearish trap. That's bullish. Over the 17, that's also bullish. Okay, but again, they've got a habit of moving up and giving it up. Okay, and notice they went up again, and they almost started to give it all up again. All right, but they came back today. Okay, so there's USO. Okay, still neutral. Still in an uptrend, okay? So you got low, low, higher low, high, high, higher high. So they're in an uptrend. Okay, now just because they made this lower high does not make them in an uptrend, okay? In a downtrend because they made a lower high right here. Okay, they're still in an uptrend. If they happen, all right, to take out these lows, they will have a downtrend, but they'd have to take out that low right there, okay, in order to be in a downtrend. They have to take out that low. Okay, right now they're still in an uptrend within a pullback in that uptrend. Okay, so there's USO, neutral and in an uptrend, not in the upper third, so it's just neutral. All right, again, more training is necessary. Okay, unable to hold the plank up here, but I mean, if they can get up here in the bullish side on the upper third, hold the plank up there, all right, that'll be bullish up there, okay? So let's take a look at UNG, okay? This anchored VWAP right there, that's a 3-year high anchored VWAP. That's from the post-COVID rally right there. And you can see price is up on top of that that 3-year high anchored VWAP, showing a sign of bullishness, but not bullish yet. Okay, bullishness, and in an uptrend. Let's take a look at UNG, and UNG in a downtrend, but not moving down. All right, and I read on X or Facebook that president made a deal with somebody, I think in Germany, maybe, regarding them buying some of our natural gas. Okay, so as we're in a downtrend, all right, and I'll point it out in a minute, but you can see for the last 6 candles we've been moving up. In other words, all right, regardless, we've been moving up, okay, and not down. All right, now if this pullback happens to take out this high, all right, we'll have an uptrend. Right now, we're still in a downtrend. Okay, we're in a downtrend because we got some lower highs here. Okay, you got a high. Well, there's a lower high. And then we got an even lower high. And then an even lower high right there. Okay, so we're making lower highs. Okay, now let's look at the lows. Okay, we got a low, and there's a lower low. And then we got 4 lower lows here. Okay, or 4 lows. And then we even made a lower low. So the last thing we left off with was a lower low, making this a downtrend. Now we take all that off. All right. You're also looking at a head and shoulders pattern. You got the triple top crown right up here. 1, 2, 3. Triple top crown. Okay. You got a double top right shoulder. 1, 2. Right shoulder. You got a double top left shoulder. 1, 2. And then you got a neckline. Okay. And you can see price is trying to recapture that neckline, all right, and negate the head and shoulders pattern. In order to negate the whole head and shoulders pattern, price has to come up here and guess what? Decapitate the head. That's the only way. Other than that, they're in a head and shoulders pattern, all right, for right now. Okay, so there's a possibility. Let's look at with the quad lines. That is the all-time low. Okay, so you can see with these higher lows, lower highs and lower lows, they're in a downtrend. They're in a bearish head and shoulders pattern. All right, they just currently they're not moving down. All right, yeah, maybe after all of this buying they roll over, and who knows if they make a lower low. All right, but right now they're in a downtrend and in a bearish head and shoulders pattern, and they're in quadrant. They're in the lower third. In other words, okay, you can see clearly where the lower third would be for the quad lines, probably right about here. Okay, you can see we're down here in the lower third. That's bearish. Okay, all of this is bearish and in a downtrend. All right, so that's not ready to buy for long yet. All right, still needs some more training, and you're underneath this measly, all right, 18-month high anchored VWAP, and that's a really low bar to set. Okay, and they still can't get up over that 18-month high anchored VWAP. Okay, because that's nowhere near the all-time high. If you're wondering where the all-time high is, it's, yeah, clear up there. All right, way up there, okay, and we're only here on this one, and we can't even get over that and hold the higher ground. And you can see, all right, the weakness. All right, how? Up, give it up, up, give it up. I mean, you look at up, give it up, over and over and over. Up, give it up, give it up, up, give it up. I mean, I don't know how many times this goes up and gives it up. Every time. All right, look at this. Up, give it up. Okay, this is neutral at best. All right, neutral at best. It's been a long time since I've seen them move up and hold the higher ground. Okay, this is bearish and in a downtrend. All right, and probably should not be owned for a long time. Look at the consistency of moving up and giving it up time and time again. Okay, this should only be traded, never bought and hold. Okay, trade it for the move up and then bail on it. All right, never buy and hold this thing. Okay, not now anyways. Not saying never, but I'm just saying I'm not seeing any signs or reasons to hold it. All right, so there's UNG. All right, let's take a look at GLD. Okay, GLD, again, you can see the clear sign of price moves up, all right, and holds the higher ground. A little sloppy, but it's there. All right, that's bullish. All right, remember I showed you that's a sign of strength, planking up there like that. Right, it's like the F-16 showing you the belly right there. All the hardware it's got underneath. Okay, so there's gold, price action. Okay, higher, lower high, lower low, but nice green candle closing in a bullish trap over the 17. That's bullish. Over all-time high anchored VWAP, bullish. Up here in quadrant 4, bullish. Planking and holding the higher ground. Yeah, definitely bullish. Up over the uptrend line, bullish. Okay, and in an uptrend, you got some lows. Well, we got some higher lows, and we got some all-time highs up here. Okay, so that's bullish. All right, there's GLD. SLV. All right, SLV. All right, look at builds a launch pad and launches. All right, now they're holding the higher ground up here, consolidating over prior consolidation. That's bullish. All right, you got candle for today. Okay, got a higher low, got a higher high. That's bullish. All right, closing over. Well, especially if it close over the bullish trap. All right, because you could get no, it'd be hard to have a higher low and a higher high. There. What am I thinking? All right, so over the bullish trap, bullish over the 17, bullish. All right, up here at the top of quadrant 4, also bullish. Over this prior all-time high, this is a 12-year high, anchored VWAP right there, okay? So here's the daily chart that's bullish. It's in an uptrend because you got some lows, you got some higher lows, and you got some higher highs. See that? 12-year high. So when's the last time we were up this high? Hey, let's go look at the monthly, weekly chart, okay? 2012, okay, is the last time, okay, we were up this high. See where price is today? Okay, it's been a while, about 12, 13 years since we've been up this high. Okay, that's an uptrend. That's bullish. All right, so there's silver. All right, let's take a look at a few sectors, and then we're going to call it a day. And can I please give a target for silver? Okay. First one, top of that wick. That breakdown candle right there. So the high there is 36.44. All right, 36.44. After that comes this high, this breakdown candle high. All right, which is 42.39. Okay, 42.39. Okay, those are the two highs. And then, of course, comes the all-time high way up there, which is like 48.56. Okay, so there's silver. All right, let's take a look at, I'm going to get out of there, look at a few other sectors, and we're going to call it a day. Okay, going to have some chili tonight. Get some nice hot chili. I love chili with chips. All right, so let's take a look at SMH. All right, SMH. All right, top of quadrant 4, maybe even, no, not quite, not today. That's bullish. All right, that's the all-time high right there. And you can see we almost challenged it today. All right, top of quadrant 4 and in an uptrend. Look at the trajectory, okay? You don't need to be a genius to figure out that this thing's moving up. Okay, and there's the prior all-time high. Anchored VWAP is the pink line. Okay, this is bullish. Okay, you don't need to be a genius to recognize that's bullish. This is neutral. Obviously bullish right there. XLK. Okay, new all-time high. Again, just dropped the mic, all right, made a launch pad, and they launched. Obviously, you can see the box I built, all right, for the launch pad. All right, little man inside there building this launch pad, and then we have, Houston, we have liftoff right there, okay? XLK, that's bullish, and in an uptrend, new all-time high, just dropped the mic. It doesn't get any better than that, all right? Let's take a look at XLF. All right, XLF moving up, holding higher ground. Consolidation over prior consolidation. A clear sign of strength here, okay? Higher low, higher high, closing over a bearish trap, over the 17. That's bullish, okay? Moving up, holding the higher ground. Clear sign of strength up there, top of quadrant 4. That's bullish. Over the prior all-time high anchored VWAP, also bullish. XLF, bullish. And in an uptrend. We have not broken anything here. Okay, XLF bullish and uptrend. Okay, these guys should be doing phenomenal. Let me say why. Okay, because if the indexes are making new all-time highs, all right, investment banking is the one that facilitates all of the buys and sells within the market's new all-time highs. Not to mention they facilitate all the IPOs, all the splits, everything that goes on within the markets, okay, has the knowledge of investment banking has the knowledge of. All right, so if they're not making new all-time highs, they got serious problems. All right, really. All right, if they're not making new all-time highs while the market's making new all-time highs, my gosh, all you got to do is buy it. All right. When then someone else, when BlackRock puts in an order to buy, 20,000 NVIDIA, you just ride the coattails. It's that easy, okay? So they should be making new all-time highs. Hence, you've got 7-8 days ago, they made a new all-time high, okay? And they're planking up there. That's a show of strength, okay? Let's take a look at IYT, last one. IYT holding the higher ground up here. All right, in the upper third, that's bullish. Nice candle today, higher low, higher high, closing inside a bearish trap, but over the 17 EMA in the upper third, over this all-time high anchored VWAP. That's bullish, still in an uptrend, IYT. All right, traders, that's it for me for today, okay? You got a little bit of training in. If you've never been here or seen me before, you got to listen to some professional, mark off what's bullish in the market, tell you what to look for. All right, so I'll see you guys all tomorrow. I showed you how I make my money. All right, how I make profits. I spelled that out clearly with SPY. I showed you my 10-minute chart's my favorite chart. Okay, I don't know how many times I got to say it. That's my favorite, and especially when price starts cutting away from VWAP. That's the brown line. Okay, when that trend, that 10-minute uptrend, which all the 10-minute uptrends, it's the 3 EMA on top of the gate. Okay, and it's cutting away from the brown line, which is VWAP. Okay, right there, that's where I make my money. All I do is I look at the candles, all right, and I'm just saying, right through here, I'm just looking to buy the lows. 10-minute uptrend, yep, okay, so I want to put out a net of buys and a net of sells. And I'll just let price run into either one. Okay, it's 10-minute uptrend still intact, yes. Next candle. Put out some more buys, put out some more sells. Next candle, 10-minute uptrend still intact. Yes. Put out some more buys, put out some more sells. It's that easy, all right? But you got to find this 10-minute uptrend that's cutting away from VWAP. That's the hardest part, is to find that one right there where it's cutting away. Sometimes there's a huge cutaway, like look at this big cut from the day before. Sometimes it's like a shallow cut, but it's just melting up right there, okay? That's the hardest part. Once you find that, you find the right strike, all you got to do is buy this. If the 10-minute uptrend's intact, all right, look at your candles down here for your option, all right? Sell the peaks and buy the lows. That's it. That's all I do. There's no magic to it. There's no big math going on. There's no calculus. There's no algorithm. All right, it's that simple, that easy. All right, find the trend, look for the cutting away, find the right option, and trade it. Okay, that's it. That's all there is to it. Are you buying the pullbacks into VWAP and the 3 and the 8? Sometimes yes. Sometimes yes. But right now, yes. Most of them, yes. Because I've got on the bigger time frames, Robert, okay, yes. But on the 0 DTEs, no. All right, like on these, I have a belief that SPY is going to go to 650. Actually, well beyond 650. So when I get a pullback to VWAP or lower sometimes, I've got some 14 DTEs and some 8 DTEs, okay, that I will add to on those. Those I will buy on the dips. Okay, when it comes to the 1s and the 0s, I wait for the uptrend to ensue or to take over again, either on a 3 or a 5-minute time frame, and start buying those. All right, because you never know how deep the pullback is going to be. It could be $2. It could be, you've seen it, $7. All right, so you don't know when that uptrend's gonna end. Most of the time, you get a nice bounce off of VWAP, and I can count on that bounce to exit at break even. All right, when I do buy the pullbacks to VWAP, yeah. Typically on a nice uptrend, yes, buy that pullbacks on this back to VWAP, because VWAP usually acts like a trampoline. You notice it pulls back, and then look at the gymnast. It goes bouncing up higher. All right, it kind of acts like a trampoline. How to prepare for the rug pulls? There's no way. You don't know. There's no way to prepare for rug pulls, other than you got to use a stop. And then when you start using stops, you know what happens. You can get flipped out, only to have price recover. 30 minutes later. Look at yesterday. Okay, rug pull. All of this happened. That's 1 10-minute candle, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, okay? Inside of 50 minutes, this thing dropped $3 and recovered. You see that, Mel? It was that fast. Boom, boom. Just like that. So there's no way. There's nothing you can do. The only way you can get is to stop them from talking. All right? You'd have to shut down the internet. There's no other way. They're gonna talk. Let them do their talking. You know, all in all, you know, we've had some really nice rallies, and we're at a new all-time high. Look at price. You know, 627.99. We've never been up this high. That's a new all-time high up there. So there's nothing you can do other than put a stop in. And then there'll be times you'll put a stop in and you'll wish you didn't put a stop in. You'll wish you just waited it out. Thanks, Alan. See you tomorrow. Thank you. Yeah, the green dots help to keep you in an uptrend. If you're in a down, if you got red dots, that's a nice downtrend. Green dots, uptrend right there. On the 10-minute. All right? Try to stick with the 10-minute. Remember, the bigger time frames are going to be more reliable. Okay? Because inside of a, let's just face it, inside of a 30-minute uptrend, you're going to have sometimes 2 or 3 3-minute downtrends, some 2-minute downtrends, some 5-minute downtrends inside of a 30-minute uptrend. Okay? And for that, the bigger time frames are more reliable. And this is why I had my target of 629.23. That was my target for today. And we never got it. So we'll probably gap up there tomorrow morning. I'm not going to be surprised if we gap up there and hit it tomorrow morning. Yes, they do that. They do that to everybody. Even me. They catch me. All right? You're not the only ones. They do it all the time. The big thing is just to look. Is the rubber band candle broken? All right? Then I need to get out. All right? Pay attention to the rubber band candle. If that's broken, you need to get out. All right? If it's not, then I stay with the strategy. For me, that's where it's at. Watch the rubber band candle. 10-minute chart. It does. Please explain what the rubber band. Yeah, it's bullish rubber band candle. Okay, so we use them for entries. We use them for exits. Okay, so here's a candle right here attached to VWAP. So this is the rubber band candle. All right, this is the first candle today. Okay, you notice they're attached to VWAP. All right, so you get the big candle that's attached to VWAP, and then you got the see the one free floating candle that rises above the big attached candle. Okay, that becomes my rubber band candle. Okay, everything from VWAP up to the top of that wick is capable of being pulled back by the energy in the rubber band back to VWAP. Okay, and you can see it did. See these next two candles? They pull price back down underneath. Okay, so that would be the rubber band. Spike, free floating candle that exceeds the spike candle. Okay, if this one is still attached to VWAP, which is oftentimes our point of interest, okay, then that becomes the new spike candle. Okay, and then the following or the next one that happens to exceed the biggest spike candle, all right, if it exceeds and it's free floating out there, that would become the rubber band candle. Okay? All right, you guys clear on that, or did I confuse you? I was to look for the break. It's always, I look for the break. If they break that rubber band candle, then I usually don't have to worry about a snap back in price coming back underneath VWAP. Right, the pullback. I don't have to worry about it anymore if they break it. All right, if they exceed the rubber band candle high. If they close a candle up over the rubber band candle high, I don't have to worry about a snap back to VWAP. Probably for about 2 hours. Yep. Yeah, because if they fail to exceed the rubber band candle, they're going to probably retrace back to VWAP. And you can see here they did. See how they got up there? Rubber band candle, and price comes back, and notice it actually made an appearance underneath VWAP right here. All right, traders, that's it for me for today. I want to clap. Congratulations, everybody. I'll see you all tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Let's do it again. Thank you, everyone.